oxygen 17, oxygen 18, producing carbon 13 and neon 22. So we're getting a lot of reactions that produce neon 22 at the top here, which is what we observe, okay, from oxygen 17 interactions. Okay, so my conclusion is that the fractal toroidal magnetohydrodynamic structures produce coherent matter wave structures that capture energy and matter and can transform them into the elements for life. The core elements are those needed principally for life, including nitrogen, or are the main components of the Earth: oxygen, silicon, aluminium, calcium, titanium, and iron. If you look at what the Earth is made from, it is almost entirely these elements: oxygen, silicon, aluminium, calcium, titanium, and iron. All of those elements get synthesized. Okay? Other than the things that we stand on and we build our houses from, everything else is produced in the core. And on the boundary, the principal elements are likely hydrogen, though we can't see it: carbon, oxygen, and phosphorus. So with nitrogen from the core and carbon, oxygen, and phosphorus and hydrogen, that is basically life. That is basically life. So with nitrogen from the core and carbon, oxygen, and phosphorus and hydrogen, that is basically life. That is basically life, because phosphorus is crucial for both plants and animal life. In plants, it's the key component of DNA, RNA, and adenosine triphosphate, which drives energy transfer for growth, photosynthesis, and nutrient uptake. It's especially vital for root development, flowering, and seed production. Well, if you don't have root development, flowering, and seed production, you are basically stuffed as a plant. In animals, phosphorus is essential for forming bones and teeth. Yeah, if you're an animal like us, humans, you're pretty useless without bones and teeth as a part of calcium phosphate. Of course, as well as for DNA, RNA, and adenosine triphosphate, supporting energy metabolism and cellular functions. So basically, you cannot procreate, you cannot grow, and you cannot support yourself if you do not have phosphorus. It's a critical component. Without adequate phosphorus, both plants and animals suffer stunted growth, weakened structures, and impaired biological processes. It's often a limiting nutrient in ecosystems, meaning its availability can dictate growth rates. Just not having phosphorus can make plants not grow. What does this mean? You have all of these people, Shishkin, saying, I take my cavitated water where I've had enough flocks of these strange radiation birdies to kill me, right? And I feed that to my plants and it grows really well. I think the wastewater from cavitation heat systems will be an absolute gift to agriculture, because it will have nascent synthesized elements, all of the elements for life, those critical elements for life. Sulfur, probably some fixed nitrogen in there as well, and also phosphorus. Absolutely critical. I think that's when you feed this energized water that's gone through cavitation. You don't want to go through too much cavitation, because you start creating, look, we saw some cadmium in there. Whether that was real, I don't know. But we do know that from the work of Leclerc, if you keep running it through the reactor in a cycle, you will end up producing all of the elements in the periodic table. Not good, not good, not good at all, right? But a cavitation heat system where the hot water is made, it then goes through your hot water system, and then not too many cycles, and then it is used for instance, irrigation on crops. You could provide heat for a greenhouse, steam for processing product, and nutrient-rich water for the plants. This, in my view, is the flower of life. The structure, the magnetohydrodynamic structure in the form of the flower of life. That is to say, a minimum 4, but preferably 6 or above substructures. But any of them will do. Will provide newly synthesized elements from whatever elements you give it. Palladium, platinum, uranium. I mean, if you start with uranium, you're going to have a lot of mess in there as well. So, like, probably don't do that. But even if you start with light elements, even with light elements, you get heavier elements forming. Okay? So, you know, life doesn't use a lot of nickel, but it does use iron. So if you have iron in there, you're going to get every element lighter than iron. And it's not that, people think if you make something lighter than iron, then you're going to lose energy. But if you're starting with a lot of hydrogen and oxygen and you're making all the elements in between, you can make a lot of energy. And you can make all of the lot of elements in between. These structures do like to get stuck to iron. So maybe aluminium's the best bet, because aluminium fuses easily to iron to give you your excess heat. And it also can fission, and it's not fusing and fissioning, it's cluster decay. There is some fusioning, there is some fissioning, but it's mostly cluster decay and matter collapse and rebirth. But to see the corroboration, both in Matsumoto in 1991 and in Focardi Piantelli work in 1996, of what we are seeing in multiple systems now, which is not cold fusion. It is not cold fusion. That is a dead term. It is a dead term. Okay? It's coherent energy transformation. There's all kinds of things going on, but it needs coherence to do it. You need coherence in forming the intense magnetohydrodynamic structure. That produces the topological phase singularity, which becomes the topological monopole, and the monopoles are able to tear matter apart and cohere it into wavelets, and when that matter is ejected back into the ordinary vacuum state, it creates all of the elements you would want. Now, as it says in S.V. Adamenko's book, if you keep piling nuclei in there, at some point it goes past iron and it shoots up into thousands of AMU. You don't want to do that. This isn't a system you try to take to the max. Nature likes to do it gently. And as I said many moons ago in 2019, it's like water flowing down a stream or coming through a crack in the ground under pressure. Lots of cavitation, and it's a one flow through process. Animals and creatures like to live near crashing water on the shore, fast flowing streams. They like to live near hydrothermal vents. They like to live near springs. Why? I believe, and have maintained since 2019 very clearly, that is because these are the places where nascent bioactive elements are formed in a very easy to absorb way. They're not chunks of iron, they're not chunks of phosphorus. They are actual phosphorus atoms that are easily absorbed. Okay, so with that, I will see if there's any questions, and I might have a little bit of crazy for you.